This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Welcome inside the studio. Maria Taylor, Mike Florio, Devin McCourty, and Jason Garrett here with you. We are here to break down Week 11, and let's start with the Bears taking on the Lions. Justin Fields returning from that thumb injury, and we also saw Jared Goff 3 interceptions, 4 turnovers for the Lions, but showing some grit, Jason, and able to come back and get the victory.
Yeah, Maria, if you want to be a championship team, if you want to be a championship quarterback, you got to be able to handle adversity. And I think that's where Jared Goff has grown the most over the course of his career. He's a mentally tough guy now. And he couldn't have played much worse early on in the ball game. Throws 3 interceptions. They're down 12 with 4 minutes to go. He doesn't blink. Completes a couple short ones. Hits Jamison Williams on the touchdown. The defense gets a stop. They drive again, and they go score. And they didn't blink. And they got a lot of these guys on their team on both sides of the ball that have that same kind of mentality. It all comes from their coach. I love this team, and they're going to make a great run at this thing.
And we talked about it as we were watching the games. Confidence for players. When you have that confidence, and I think for Detroit, it starts with Holmes, the GM, and Dan Campbell. They first said, hey, Jared Goff, we're trading for you, not just because we're getting rid of Stafford. We believe in you. Come lead our football team. And now all is going wrong, all is going bad. That team rallied behind Goff, and he led them. And no matter if it was up, down, he continued to say, you saw him on the sideline, shaking everybody's hand. I'm going to get it right. Let's go, let's go. It was fun to watch from that Detroit team.
And I think it is important for them to have that experience of having to fight through the adversity. They're in a stretch of games they should win all of them. They had more of a fight with the Chargers than they should have, but that's another example of being able and ready to dig deep, and they're going to need that in the playoffs. You don't want to just make quick work of these teams they should beat. You build a little character, and you have something you can draw upon when you get to the postseason and you have games. So they win, which is good. It wasn't pretty. And Jared Goff had some problems in the defense I'm still concerned about, but they got the win, and they're 8-2 for the first time since Kennedy was president. I thought that was a joke. That's the truth. It was Kennedy as the president the last time they were 8-2.
61 years ago, actually. Let's talk about Justin Fields, though, and what will the Bears be looking at? Is this our guy? Is this our quarterback moving forward? Is that what we're going to be looking at through the rest of the season as long as he stays healthy?
It's such a tough balance, Murray, because okay, you want to have the highest possible draft pick. If you go in a different direction, the better he plays, the lower you're going to pick. But I think if they can develop something from him that they think he could be the guy, that's the win. Because with a new quarterback, look at Bryce Young. You don't know what a guy's going to be. You don't know if you're going to pull the right card and scratch it off and it's a winner. If you have a guy that you think can be the foundational piece, keep him. Work around him and use that draft capital elsewhere. So just let him go out and just let him show it'll answer itself. Let him show you what he can do, and you make a decision after the season.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. You think of Kyler Murray, you think of Justin Fields. They're both out there playing with the whole franchise wondering, is this going to be our guy? And I think for both those guys to continue to go out there, Justin Fields today came out, ran for over 100 yards, showed that he can make plays, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Chicago front office of what is the right decision. Do we try to build around him, put more pieces, or do we decide to kind of reset our whole franchise all over again? I wouldn't want to have to make that decision. That's really hard.
Well, he's certainly making the decision harder and harder for that Chicago Bears brass. He's played well. He's developed as a pocket passer. He certainly has the athleticism. He's had that from day one. The tricky thing for them, though, is Caleb Williams, Drake May, these elite quarterbacks coming out. You know, there are people in the draft that you could say, wow, we'd like to build around them, but it's about opportunity cost. If you keep Justin Fields, you can draft to make the environment better. Okay, if you move on and use that high pick on the quarterback, the team is where it is. So I agree with Mike. Let's let the season play out. You don't have to make that decision tonight.
All right, let's talk about the Steelers and the Browns because, you know, the Browns now playing without Deshaun Watson. So we had to see DTR kind of stepping in. But that defense, they did what they've been doing all season long, Devin, and that's be elite, making it very difficult. The Steelers are a team that like to stick around, stay around, and win a game. The Browns defense handled that.
Yeah, and DTR talked about it after the game. He's like, you guys saw my first time getting out there playing against Baltimore. This team rallied around me. And you saw he was a little emotional after, which to me showed that this is a team. This is a close-knit group. Yes, they lost Deshaun Watson, but they're like, hey, we're not worried about that. This is a true team football team, and we're going to go play. We had him. He was great. Deshaun Watson, getting him, we were excited. He hasn't played, like, through the roof. So they're like, hey, DTR will come in here. We're going to play through our defense. We're going to need other guys to step up. But we're not done. We're not just out of this season. We're not out of the playoffs. We're going to continue to play, and it was fun to watch a young rookie get an opportunity to go out there again and then be on the winning side and show up on that last drive, make the right throws, make the right decisions, and to get a win for his team.
Yeah, he was big at crunch time, but you said it. This defense is elite, but not only elite, but they're really disruptive. They can disorient the opposing offense, down after down. These quarterbacks don't know where to look. Guys are coming from everywhere. And, we talked about, hey, there's a blitz package. Oftentimes, they put their 4 guys down and they go rush the quarterback and they can't block them. So, again, the defense travels. They run the ball really well. It's a good environment for him. He needs to be able to make plays with his feet. He needs to be able to stay within the system and let his playmakers make some plays around him. Keep throwing the ball to number 2, Amari Cooper. He gives you a chance.
And I think that it was so encouraging to see him rebound from that Week 4 game. One of the things that doesn't get discussed much, he didn't think he was playing Week 4. Nobody in that locker room other than Deshaun Watson thought Deshaun Watson wasn't playing. And this time around, Dorian Thompson-Robinson knew from Wednesday, if not earlier, I'm going to prepare all week. I'm going to take the reps. I'm going to be the guy. And we saw a bit of a difference. But that defense, too, the Browns' defense swarmed the Steelers. They had Jalen Warren and nobody else today. Yeah. And it was because of Myles Garrett and company. That defense really is among the best in the NFL. And for the Browns to do what they did, and they're going to Denver, and then they play the Rams on the road after that. They're going to stay out on the West Coast together. And I think it's a perfect time of the year for a week together and bond even tighter and prepare for that stretch run. They really could be a factor in the AFC. I think they could because they've got the defense. As you guys were saying during the pregame show tonight, the defense and the running game, that travels and that plays into January.
You guys agree?
Yeah, I do agree. I think this team might hit it. When you get to travel, I got to do that in 2014 with the Patriots. We went to Green Bay and then stayed on the West Coast and played the Chargers after. It was all guys going out to eat, guys watching film together. When we left the West Coast, we felt like it was as close as we've ever been. And from on the football field, we felt like we were playing our best football. And I think this team can build that kind of bond and then go out there and execute on the field.
The other thing that's real is Joe Burrow's not the quarterback of Cincinnati right now.
Yeah.
Right? Pittsburgh's struggling with their quarterback playing, what they're doing on offense. So there's opportunity. The Ravens are the best team in the division, but Cleveland's certainly in the mix.
All right, let's talk about the 49ers because Brock Purdy had a perfect passer rating against the Buccaneers. I like to call it the land of perfectly fit toys because he threw a touchdown pass like everyone, Christian McCaffrey. He's starting over his streak at 1. But it just sometimes it makes it look so easy, like unguardable when you think about the 49ers offense.
They have a core of players that they just have to keep healthy. And if they keep that nucleus healthy, the guys on offense, the guys on defense, the core guys, if they're healthy, they're unstoppable. The problem is their style of play, as we've said before, is conducive to guys getting injured. But today is one of those days it just all clicked. And, yeah, Brock Purdy, the perfect passer rating. The offense is working. The defense is working. It was a little closer. It felt a little closer in the second half than maybe it should have been. But they're checking the boxes, and they're making their move now.
The thing you got to remember about him, he is a young quarterback. Now, this is his second year. He has not started that many games, and he goes out there week after week. He had that little stretch where he wasn't quite as good, turned the ball over late in games. But other than that, over the last year or so, he's been phenomenal. And he's a great decision maker, can make throws down the field. He makes plays with his feet time and time again. He plays well in situational football, and he knows those weapons. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's one of the best, throwing it to Kittle. Ayuk's playing great. They have so many different guys, and he just orchestrates it. Doesn't feel a pressure to get the ball to one guy, reads things out, throws it to the right guy. He's on time. He's accurate. They're a really good team.
Yeah, and Fred Warner talked about it coming out of the bye week. He said, we're going to take it one game at a time. It was almost like this team got humbled going on that 3-game losing streak. Hey, let's not worry about what everybody else is talking about, how good we are, we're complete. Let's take it one game at a time, do what we're supposed to do. And each week, when you play this team, I write in my notes, who do you game plan for? Who do you come in saying, hey, if we stop this one guy, if you stop McCaffrey, Ayuk has a big game, Kittle has a big game. Deebo Samuel now goes in the backfield. So with so many weapons at their disposal, it's so hard to stop. And I think they now feel like, hey, we're the only people who can stop us. We need to have a one-game mindset, come out, execute, destroy who's in front of us, and worry about whoever's coming next after we win this game.
Are you back to the point of believing the 49ers are the best team in the league?
I do, and I think what was good for them today is, like Mike hinted to, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't one of those games that they just dominated every facet. There was times where Tampa made a couple plays where you're like, oh, this might turn into a game, but then they would make another big play to pull away and separate. So I think that helps this team continue to get better because they're already the most complete team in football.
Every so often, Maria, they get a little leaky on defense, but they have all those rushers. So if they can play from ahead and the team has to throw the ball, I mean, they're just bringing these guys in. We're talking about Cleveland's front four. These guys have front four. They just rush the guys. They can play coverage on the back end, and they're hard to block.
All right, let's talk about the Bills and the Jets. Offensive coordinator change. Ken Dorsey's fired after the Bills lose to the Broncos. So insert Joe Brady. What did you notice was different maybe about the offense in Week 11?
Well, first off, that's a hard deal. Ken Dorsey, the guy's done a really good job there. It certainly was a team loss against Denver the other night for obvious reasons. Special teams was a part of it. Their defense was a part of it. But sometimes in this league, this is what happens. And he takes the brunt of it, and the team has to respond, and they have to respond quickly. The game's in 6 days. Joe Brady's been there. He's been a kind of a quarterback mentor to Josh Allen. So I think that transition was easy. The biggest thing that jumped out, and we've been talking about it for a couple of years with Josh, is take some pressure off of him. And the way they did that is they threw the ball to the backs. He's throwing the ball 4 yards down the field. The back is doing the rest. So now he doesn't feel like he has to put the whole city of Buffalo on his shoulders every single snap. And then when you do that, when you spread it around, in the big moments, he doesn't feel so pressurized, and he's going to play better, and that's what happened in this game.
Yeah, when he was a young quarterback and we would play him in New England, we would talk about don't cover the running backs because he doesn't want to throw them. He wants to throw down the field. And then he had a stretch where he started taking advantage, and it felt like this year that kind of went away, and it felt like Joe Brady today said, hey, the running backs, like you said earlier, they're your best friend. Get them the ball.
That's why they call them running backs.
Exactly.
It's not ultimate Frisbee. Throw it to them and let them run.
I think on the other side, though, for this Jets defense, it becomes really hard to show up week in and week out when you know offensively you're not getting any help. And this Jets defense came out early part in the game. They turn the ball over. They hold Buffalo to 3 straight field goals. It's 9-0. And it's like we're still not doing anything on the other side of the ball. Then it just felt like the game got away from them, ends up ugly. But, I mean, I really feel for that Jets defense. They come out and play their butts off every week, but they just don't get any help from the offense.
And I've seen that creep in the past few weeks. The Monday night game against the Chargers, when it was clear that the Jets were not going to score 20 points. They could have played 3 games, and the Jets wouldn't have gotten 20 points. But their defense was playing like they're still in it. And I'm thinking, what am I missing here? Like, do they have some trick plays I don't know about? Why is this defense still playing so hard? But last week I noticed it started to fall off a bit, and it fell off even more today. And that was good for the Bills. It was exactly what they needed. They needed a team like that, a wounded team to come in, because they were wounded too, to turn it around on 5 days, to basically change the tire on a moving car. Yeah, the car wasn't moving well, but they got it done. And they need it because Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys are the next 3 for the Bills.
It's like a murderer's row. It doesn't get any easier for the Bills.
The deep-down confidence of a team over the course of a season has a lot to do with who's under center for you, right? So over time, we're putting it out there. If you got a guy who you believe in, it rallies around, and everybody kind of, here we go. We can go win this game. And I think the byproduct of the Jets quarterback situation is it's pervading the rest of the team, and the hope and the belief is quickly dwindling.
We see that with Minnesota and Josh Dobbs.
No doubt.
Someone to rally behind. Just do something, anything. Let's talk about the Chargers. They do have a quarterback to rally around, but with their 6 losses, 3 of them have come after they've had a fourth quarter lead. So let's just talk about why this keeps happening to them. What is falling apart at the seams, especially late games?
You talk about inconsistency. Their defense has been inconsistent from week 1. They just have not played well. At different moments, hey, they kind of show up. They sack the quarterback a lot. But in general, they have not stopped the run. They've given up explosive plays. They haven't played very well in situational football. And it's kind of the reverse. When the other team is moving the ball all the time and always coming up big, that impacts your team as well, even though you have this elite quarterback. And that's been the story here for the last couple of years for the Chargers. They're just finding ways to lose in all the big moments, whether it's in the red zone or at the end of the game. Very capable players are not making the plays. And I think they are kind of squeezing that golf club a little bit tight. They're all trying to do too much, and it's showing up in their execution.
I mean, you hit it. Today, the mistakes they made on offense was who? It was their best players. It was Keenan Allen dropping a pass. It's Austin Eckler fumbling inside the 5-yard line. When you have those plays, it was, Herbert earlier missing some throws. But I still go back to, we look at these offensive miscues and we create and make it so high. It's like those are 1 or 2 mistakes, and we let the defense off the hook when it's like, hey, those mistakes wouldn't always beat us, and we could just get some stops on defense, get some turnovers on defense, but we don't rely on them at all, and we expect these offensive weapons to week in and week out play at the best level ever. We need Keenan Allen, 200 yards receiving. We need Herbert, 4 or 5 touchdowns. Like, it's not realistic in this league. You're not going to be able to do that each week.
I always love to spot the dysfunctional organizations in the NFL, and they're easy to spot. The Chargers, I think, are the most or the best dysfunctional team.
That's a good
They've
point.
got a bunch of great players, but they just can't put it together. As I've said before, it's always something. A very dated reference from Roseanne Dana. It's always something. Jason's the only one that gets that one. But yeah,
I know Roseanne. I know Roseanne and Dan.
But it when you look at how mediocre the conference is, all the quarterback injuries, how is this team that has a healthy franchise quarterback not right in the middle of the playoff picture? When you have teams with lesser quarterbacks, lesser talent, I mean, Brandon Staley, how can he not be done after this year? And I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it goes. If you don't win enough, if you have a good team, that's it. But I can't count on the Chargers organization making that decision. They may decide, let's run it back. Let's do it again. Maybe it'll be different next time. And that's how they've been the past several years with a great team, but they just can't put it together.
Brandon Staley very agitated after the game. We ran one of the sound bites, and he's like, I'm calling the defensive plays. Don't ask me that question again. Do not ask it again. When you were talking about Roseanne, like the show?
No. Saturday Night Live, Gilda Radner, Roseanne and Dan.
I knew it. I knew you didn't know.
I know.
He's talking about Roseanne and Dan, like the show.
Roseanne and Dan.
YouTube it.
Okay.
It's classic.
Is it on there? Is it on
Oh,
YouTube?
absolutely. Yeah.
We'll look
Black and white.
But it's black and white.
All right, give us some time to do a little research. While we do that, let's get some fantasy football news from Matthew Berry. Please save us, Matthew.
Yes, Maria, from the old to the new, let's talk about the big headlines from today. And unfortunately, a lot of big-name running backs left their games early. So injuries to Aaron Jones, to Kenneth Walker, to Devon Achane. Now, I've got good news and bad news. Here's the good news. None of them seem serious at the moment as we tape this Sunday night, right? Aaron Jones, optimism. It's not a long-term injury, but an MRI coming Monday. That's per Matt LaFleur. Ken Walker, legit oblique strain per Pete Carroll. And then Devon Achane, positive feedback from the medical staff. He's going to be reevaluated on Monday. That's for Mike McDaniel. So that's the good news. None of them, at least at the moment, seem super serious. The bad news is they're all on a short week. Of course, Seattle, Green Bay playing on Thanksgiving, Miami playing on Friday. So hard to see them being available this coming week. We'll dive into this more on Fantasy Football Happy Hour on Peacock throughout the week. Also, hey, welcome back. Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley, each of them have their best fantasy game of the year. With Trevor, 4 touchdowns total, 2 passing, 2 running, over 32 fantasy points. It's his first 20-point game of the year. And Calvin Ridley goes 7-for-103 and 2 touchdowns. He's the #1 wide receiver as we enter Monday Night Football. More points today than his prior 4 games combined. So great to see the Jags starting to roll on offense. Last thing here, our long national nightmare finally over. Tony Pollard finally got into the end zone for the first time since week #1. Thank goodness. All right, so now in my hot little hand, here I have actual bets from actual bettors. It is the DraftKings crowning moments from week number 11. Now, somebody out there said, hey, Arizona, who's the first touchdown going to go? I'm going to put $2,000 on Rondell Moore to be the first touchdown, and that person won $40,000 at plus 1,900. Now, we just talked about Trevor Lawrence is a fantasy superstar, also a betting superstar for somebody who put $20 down on Trevor Lawrence to have 2 or more touchdowns to win $1,020 at plus 5,000. And then finally, a $50 bet on Luke Schoonemaker to score the first touchdown as well. That one, that was at plus 4,000. That went over $2,000 for somebody out there as well. So congratulations there. I should say, by the way, just to clarify, the 2 touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence, that bet was on 2 non-passing touchdowns. So the fact that Lawrence got 2 rushing touchdowns, that's why the odds were so high at plus 5,000. That makes a lot more sense now that I think about it. All right, hey, a reminder that today on DraftKings Sportsbook, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, everyone gets a no-sweat same-game parlay every single day. Here's what you do. You use promo code SNF when you download the app and sign up.
All right, it's time for our speed round, and we want to have a Thanksgiving theme because the holiday's coming up. We're getting ready for Turkey Day. Let's talk about what each team has to be thankful for, and we're going to start with the Dolphins.
It's got to be Coach Mike McDaniel because he has brought such a refreshing personality and just a way, emotional intelligence, as they like to say. For years, that team, that organization, under Stephen Ross, was nothing but dysfunction. Infighting. He doesn't live in South Florida. He's just there time to time. People always in some sort of internal drama with each other. That's all gone now. And Mike McDaniel, I think, is the key reason why they made a great hire. Despite Stephen Ross, he wanted to hire Sean Payton and bring in Tom Brady, and that blew up. They get Mike McDaniel, and off it goes. And I think they're set up for years to come.
I know Tua's thankful for Mike McDaniel. He's also thankful for Tyreek Hill. Bringing in Tyreek Hill makes the Mike McDaniel offense flow a little bit better. Mike McDaniel's a little happier around the building. He can crack a lot of jokes because he has a guy who has the most yards ever up until week 10 in NFL history. So Dolphins better be thankful for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, you know better than I do. You can't guard that guy. I think they're thankful for their quarterback. Tua's been fantastic, his growth and development. Remember all the injuries last year? Can we trust this guy? He's been fantastic. He's the guy orchestrating the McDaniels offense. He's the guy getting the ball to Tyreek Hill. He's been great.
All right, what about the Jaguars?
Well, this year specifically, they have to be thankful for the schedule because they got a good one. Because they could just keep winning games. They could be the #1 seed. The Texans a little bit better than what they thought they were going to be, but they're in a weak division, and they're in a position where they might not have to go to Kansas City. They might not have to go to Baltimore. It might be everyone comes to them once the playoffs start.
I wonder if that matters for them. Is Jacksonville crowd they're gonna be ready to go?
That's true. But it's better than going on the road.
Yeah.
It's better than having to go on the road.
I think they got to be thankful for Calvin Ridley. You make that trade a year ago. You don't kind of know how that's going to work out. He's been awesome for this team. The catches, he shows up, one-on-one matchups, they can go to him. They have a guy. I think he's really changed that offense.
Talk about a guy who's righted the ship. They got to be thankful for Doug Peterson. I mean, think about them 2 years ago. It was a disaster. A disaster. And he comes in there, he's just very poised, experienced coach, puts a structure in place in the organization, how they acquire players. Obviously, it helps when you have a franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, but they just look like a professional football team. They grew over the course of last year. Expectations were high this year, and they're living up to them. They played awfully well.
All right, what about the guys that the Jaguars are looking out for? The Texans.
I think the Texans need to be most thankful for David Tepper. Because he took Bryce Young. He gave them a clear path to C.J. Stroud. And who knows what the Texans would have done with the first overall pick. If they had won that Week 18 game or had lost that Week 18 game and finished with the first overall pick, who knows? Maybe they would have taken Bryce Young. But they have their guy. He is their future, and it is working out perfectly well, all because the team drafting in front of them at the behest, either directly or subtly by their owner, took Bryce Young.
I think Kyle McNair and that Texans organization have to be thankful for Nick Caserio. He's come in there. There was a lot going on in Houston when he took over. Deshaun Watson situation. It was just up and down. Who's running it? Different head coaches in there. Lovie Smith, then David Culley. Like a lot going on. And now you look, only 2 years really removed from that. They have a quarterback. They have a coach in D'Amico Ryans. They have direction. And again, yes, he drafted Stroud, but they also traded to get Will Anderson. And all of those moves look really good right now. So big shout out to Nick Caserio.
Yeah. You guys have both mentioned Stroud, so they're certainly grateful for him. He's incredible. But I think for me, it's the head coach. D'Amico's done a fantastic job there. And again, reflect back to last year, right? They weren't a real good team. Let's go get the quarterback. Let's draft the other guy. Let's get some cornerstone pieces in here. But let's also build a team. And he's been able to do that. Everywhere he's been, certainly had a huge impact in San Francisco, had an impact when he was a player. He's a natural leader, and I think the team is reflecting his personality. To think that they're in the hunt here 10 weeks into the season, it's crazy. He's done a great job.
3 wins last season. They've already doubled that. They've got 6 wins, and they're just, a game behind the Jaguars? You can't even imagine it, but they've managed it to make it happen. Okay, what about the Cowboys? What are they thankful for?
I think for today, they need to be thankful Jerry Jones finally realized it was time to put Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor. He was dragging his feet, and when they cut to the shot today during the Fox pregame of Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson in the booth in Charlotte, Fred Gaudelli said he's going to put him in the Ring of Honor. And it took about 15 minutes to land the plane, but he put him in the Ring of Honor. And I just think for this moment, it was time and it was overdue, but it's good that he finally kind of admitted it took too long. Let's get this guy where he belongs.
No, that's awesome. I'm going to stick to just this year. I think it's Deron Bland. They lose Diggs.
Yep.
And it was like the ceiling's crashing down. Like, how's this team going to survive? Diggs has been their best player. He gets the interceptions, everything. And then you look up, you're like, oh, Deron Bland just tied NFL history with 4 pick sixes in one season. So I think this team, after losing somebody that big, your top guy on defense other than Micah Parsons, and then you look and you're like, oh, yeah, Deron Bland's going to show up and he's going to be one of the best corners in the league this year. You can't beat that.
He's been incredible, record-breaking, and a lot of football to be played. But for me, it's the quarterback, Dak Prescott. He's been phenomenal. Troy Aikman told me a long time ago, a lot of things come with the dinner when you're the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And, there's so much scrutiny, so much attention on Dak, every throw he makes. Here's a guy who's one of the NFL greats throughout his career of not turning the ball over. Had a number of interceptions last year. It was a national story. It was on the national news about Dak Prescott throwing interceptions in training camp. That's just the way it is. But he's handled all that beautifully. He's played great here the last month. And I like what they're doing. They're getting back to some of the things he's done really well throughout his career, throwing the ball down the field. That team's responded well.
All right, guys, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? Florio?
Eating a lot of food and drinking a lot of wine.
We hope to see you on Sunday.
Straight to it, Florio.
Right.
Straight to it. I like that.
Get him some Camus or something.
I'm not mad at him. I think I'm going to do the same
You
thing.
can do the same,
so,
but you don't know where yet. You're
Yeah,
still figuring it out.
Either my house or my brother's house. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
I'm not cooking though.
Obviously.
I think it's my favorite holiday. It really is. I love a turkey dinner. Then you go back and get a second helping, and you have more football. It's fantastic. Yeah, don't be afraid of cranberry sauce, Maria. It's fantastic.
It's awful.
Oh, it's
It's
sneaky.
really gross.
You might not want to wear the all white though. with
Yeah,
the-
I will never eat cranberry sauce.
Yeah.
Dressing is the best Thanksgiving food, period, full
doubt.
stop, okay? You guys enjoy your Thanksgiving, though. We know we're going to be watching football. We hope you join us on Sunday night. We got Football Night in America coming your way at 7 Eastern, right after the holiday.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.